Okay, so that brings us to the last item. I don't know if our speaker lasted this long. So, Councillor Carr, do you want to, I think you introduced your motion yesterday, yeah. So we have no speaker left to it, although I believe, Mr. Jones has certainly written me extensively about it in the past. We did get a letter from the Vancouver Public Spaces Network that I think all councillors had. So I guess motions on the floor. We'll move to debate. Oh, did anyone have questions of council or of staff? Sorry. Okay, seeing none. Councillor Carr, debate.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure that when you mentioned that we did get an email from Public Spaces Network, that we actually received quite a number of emails. They didn't end up in our regular inboxes. All of them came through into the correspondence box. So I just wanted to make sure that all of you were aware that there were all unanimously in support of my motion. Yeah, it does, but it's in a different.
Okay, let's let Councillor Carr speak.
It's just, well, maybe you don't have yours subcategorized, but I do, and those were, I think, very poignant letters of support from members of the public who feel that this is a move which would indeed increase the transparency of our votes, recognizing that you can determine the vote and the way the vote is distributed amongst yays, nays, absent people, etc., by digging, that this would make life much easier and would be very much in line with the principles espoused by this council for transparency and for public access, easy public access to data. So I'm hoping that I will get unanimous support on this motion.
Okay, Councillor Ball to the motion.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to make a small amendment and see if Councillor Carr believes that it's friendly, which is to into her list of council meetings, standing committee meetings, and public hearings, that she also add in special meetings of council. If we're going to, we should have a complete list of all the council meetings where decisions are made.
Friendly. Okay, so clerk, you have that? Okay. That's good, Councillor Ball.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Well, so I have a referral motion for this. I did try, I appreciate the sentiment of it. Certainly I've tried for 5 years now since introducing the Open 3 motion on open data, open standards, and open source to get this piece moved to an open standard. So I'm quite intimately familiar with the challenges, so I appreciate it's a learning curve. As I read your motion, it wasn't actually about open data, because the data is quite openly available right now. There's a cumulative and complete record of council votes, public hearing votes, all votes that involve members of this council online. What it doesn't have is an open standard, although you go on to suggest a spreadsheet, which itself is also not an open standard. Not that spreadsheets are bad, but it'd be good if we're going to go through this effort to make sure that we're also looking at an actual open standard. There's also a number of procedural issues with the motion around the 2-week updates. If we can't put out minutes until they've been approved by council. In some cases, like the break we're about to have, it'll be 3 weeks. In some cases, it can be 6 to 8. So the procedure bylaw would have to be reopened by my read of this. And probably the most pertinent thing, talking to Toronto staff, it's quite expensive, so it has significant financial and staffing implications. And I know you've referenced $30 million for a digital strategy, but less than 10,000 of that was allocated to the open data strategy, and that would not even get the report written to get it mobilized and all the software that you would need to track it. So, given that, I am asking that we refer to staff to report back with financial, staffing, and bylaw implications of duplicating or replacing the current system of tracking council votes with an open standard tracking system. I think that would give us a complete picture of all the legal, financial, and staffing implications involved. There are, when that report comes back, I would speak to it at more length, but the issues the Public Spaces Network raises are really, once you get through the basic stuff, are the real big challenges. That it's, well, Councillor Ball's amendment actually speaks to it. You had spoken to special council meetings, but what about all the times the Court of Revision tonight, we're not actually in a special council meeting. We're sitting as a totally separate body. We have business license hearings, so making sure we're doing this in a complete way. This would require updating the bylaw, in some cases the charter, so it's not a simple undertaking. And I think, as you say, Councillor Carr, it's important enough that it should be done well and comprehensively. So I have a referral motion on the floor. Councillor Stevenson to the referral motion.
Thank you. Chair. I would agree with this. I think if we're going to do this, we best do it well and thoroughly. But I have to say, maybe the city manager can help me on this. We have an enormous amount of work on the docket right now, and I know the staff are really up against the wall with the amount of work we have. I just am worried about. I mean, I agree with referring it, but I'm just worried about adding this kind of undertaking, which will take in a fair amount of work in itself, and where it might fit in. I'm hoping that we're not going to be rushing to get. I mean, I don't see a lot of the public demanding to have this, although I can see how it will be more helpful. We've already got tracking, but I mean, I do not have people knocking at my door saying, I need this information, I must have this information. So I'm just wondering from the city manager, where do you see this fitting in, and how do you get at this, and what time frame? It just seems like a huge amount to me.
Madam Chair and Council.
And expensive, I would think.
I think that the city clerk would probably have a better idea than me, but this is an extensive amount of work. We have launched our, as you know, our renewed website and our open data platform that is now becoming much better integrated with our website. And actually, one of our highest priorities right now is actually getting council documentation, much better positioned on the website, because when we did our first website launch, we actually focused on all of the various programs across a wide array of activities that the city does. And, and in fact, the council reports we left as is, the way they were reported, which I think many of you feel are inadequately positioned, and it's very difficult to do research and to pull things up quickly. And so that is our next major priority for our evolving website activities. This is a very extensive process, and we have our Chief Digital Officer, which, our major other business transformation priority right now is our permits and license project, which is actually consuming the whole of our east wing, which is going to be moving. We have an incredibly tight timeline through to the end of June. So, Councillor, I can't give you specific numbers. What I can say is that it is a huge amount of work, and this information is available. It's available through the council reports. It's a little bit awkward, but at the end of the day, this is, definitely, this would be, with due respect to council, I mean, we take our priorities on your direction, but this is not the highest priority that we have in terms of serving our public.
Thanks. I mean, I just think it's so easy to come forward with these pie-in-the-sky motions that it takes 5 minutes to write up a motion like this. I mean, there's nothing to writing this motion up, and without thinking about the implications.
I actually don't know that. I can't think of a specific rule that's violated, but I'll try and find one while you finish your comments in a more dignified fashion.
I thought it was quite dignified, actually, and I just find it incredible that these motions keep appearing as if there's no consequences, there's no cost, there's no implications to the staff or to the work that we've already sent out and the really important work that's being done. So I'm okay with referring this, but I hope it refers for a while, in that there's so many other things that have got to come forward. But once it gets referred, it's in the process, and the staff have to do it sometime. And I just think, boy, we need to sit down and think about what it is that we're asking for, because the implications are huge, and I just don't think that's ever taken into consideration.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Carr. Oh, you're on. Sorry. Did you mean to be gone? Okay. Councillor Chang.
We're speaking to the referral, correct?
This is the referral, yes.
Things floating around a lot today. Yes, I'm happy to support the referral, and I think what's become quite clear to me in this discussion so far, the debate so far rather, is that the motion is well-meaning, has a good intention, I think has a difficulty that we're all starting to identify, is that no one had bothered to speak to staff about it ahead of time and to actually kind of work through on a...
I don't know that we actually know that.
Okay,
so,
well,
okay.
I'm surmising on my part,
you.
and certainly seeing the reaction of our staff. They, seemed a little... Okay, once again, it's clear to me that a little background work on this. I think the letter from the Public Space Network outlining some of the difficulties with what was being requested makes it very clear. And it's a well-meaning motion. I understand and I appreciate the intent. I'm supportive of the general intent to make everything more transparent and accountable. But at the same time, I think that sort of following up on what Councillor Stevenson was referring to is that a little more homework needs to be done before bringing these things to council. I think it's only fair to councillors, it's fair to staff, but we don't want to see good intentions get curtailed or sidetracked by lack of, homework being done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jane. Councillor Ball.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to thank the chair for the referral, because I think it will be staff that will be doing this work. And should staff decide that this is a good idea and how it needs to function, then I think it will be imperative to have their input as to how it can be accomplished. And also, given that all of our decisions are made in different contexts, whether regulatory or whether it's open decision or whatever, I think those could be very informative. So I think the staff would be enormously helpful in both being able to fulfill the desire that Councillor Carr has for transparency, but also doing it in a way that works for the city. So I would support your referral.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Carr.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I will support the referral motion, and I'll support it because I think that it is a way to get this work done, and have staff take the lead on it, which of course is what must happen. And because I really believe strongly that should systems be developed that can make it not that onerous. I mean, the votes are recorded in different sections, and at the time of recording them, I don't think that the extra effort is that great. The publishing of it into an open data file, open format file, is something that expertise is required in analyzing. But it's somebody questions consequences. As the consequences are staff time and money. Well, I'm doing this, I put forward this motion because I do foresee consequences that are positive for democracy in providing this information, not only in a summarized format at the end of motions, but in some kind of easily accessible format that is very easily accessible to people. And I think the access to that kind of information will support better people's involvement in our democracy. And I think that's an incredibly important goal for all of us to support. So for that reason, I'm fine with the referral.
Okay, Councillor Stevenson, you have about 20 seconds left on your
Thank you very much. Of course, Councillor Carr sees positive consequences, and there are to all kinds of motions, but that doesn't mean it's the best thing to go through. And to say that this is just a small matter of collecting in some data from here and there is disingenuous. You have just heard the city manager clearly state that this is an enormous amount of work, and it's going to be expensive. I don't know what part of that.
Stevenson, you're at time.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, I am quite pleased to hear people will support the referral because it's become the motion was clear that it wasn't a well understood issue. It's become even more clear that there's a lot of unanswered questions as anticipated, and it would be good to clear those up. I do want to be as crystal clear as I can on the point that there is no lack of access or transparency in regard to council decisions. There's actually never been a higher level of information available, both from public and in-camera and expenses and financial information, anything you could want to know. The issue is really around the open standards, and that's why having, and if the issue was around a lack of data, not only would I have been the first one, I was the first one to be moving motions to make sure that it was, in fact, immediately made available to the public. The issue around open standards is an issue of cost and financial and staffing and legal implications, and understanding those, I think, is just as one was trying to do on the 1099 issue, is always important, I think, especially when we're getting down into ensuring that the procedural record of council is adequately preserved for, I was looking at minutes from the 60s today, and they're not very well kept. So we have to think about those people 40 years down the road as well who'll be reading our open standard information. Okay, with that, we will... I said those people. It will not be me, people. Okay, let's go to a vote on it. On the referral, all those in favor? Any opposed? The